What is going on, you guys? My name is Cody Thixton, and this is a Steam Podcast coming to you guys on February 16th, 2024 for episode 87, where today we have a very, very special guest. Make sure to hit that like, subscribe button, ring that notification bell so you guys get notified whenever I upload content. Make sure to go and follow me on social media at CodyT503. That's Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Let's get right into this. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is an absolute pleasure to introduce to you guys King NAJA.
Hey Cody, what's happening, brother? How you doing?
How are you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. It's been a long day. My shoulder is still giving me a little bit of trouble, but I'm surviving. I can't complain.
That is so awesome. All right, man. Let's actually start out for maybe all the people who maybe don't know you. Maybe introduce your name, where you're from, and how long you've been in pro wrestling.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I appreciate it. First of all, I want to thank you for reaching out, for setting this up. It's an honor that anybody sees value in what I do, right? I mean, just keeping it 100% real, to interview and kind of hear my story. So I thank you. I want to appreciate you for that. So my name is King NAJA. It's real simple. King is self-explanatory, and NAJA is a scientific genus of cobra. It actually means the king of cobras. So NAJA is the king of cobras. I've been training at the Oregon Pro Wrestling School since day one. We're going on this summer. We'll be going into our third year. So we've been training for 2+ years. I was the first student to sign up, and Amira, as no surprise, was the second student, but the first student in the door. And as much as we go to war throughout the various promotions here in the Pacific Northwest, I got to give her respect for the work ethic that she puts in the hustle, because we literally try to beat the stuffing out of her every chance we get. And she just, and that's what we do at Oregon Pro Wrestling. We train hard. Our head coach, Ricky Gibson, as well as Eddie Pearl and Coach Flex, and all of our guest coaches, they work us to be the absolute very best. So by the time we leave that dojo and head out into the promotions, we represent our school and we represent our trainers, and this sport of pro wrestling that we love so much, we represent at the highest level.
Yeah, that is so awesome. So it's like, if we could actually kind of expand a little bit on your time at Oregon Pro Wrestling School. So it's
Sure.
like, when did you actually say, like, okay, now I've found a school that I can actually go and train at? Like, what was going through your mind during that day where you were actually going and signing up for Oregon Pro Wrestling?
Yeah, it's a really interesting story, because I started out like many pro wrestlers as a fan. My daughter, my youngest daughter, Cameron, and I used to hit local shows. We had Defy shows. Actually, the first show I saw was Defy Swerve versus Austin Aries 2 at the Hawthorne Theater. I don't remember the exact date. And then subsequently, shortly thereafter, and I might have it backwards because I'm sitting on probably 20+ concussions throughout my athletic career. It was either that or Defiance United for Defy up at Washington Hall. So either that was the first one or Swerve Aries 2 at Hawthorne. And, kind of working the local scene as a fan, I came across the 4 Minutes of Heat at the time, Midnight Heat currently. The one thing I love about the indie wrestling scene is you get access to the athletes, right? You become very close with these athletes. And Ricky Gibson and I kind of hit it off at a few shows. And when COVID hit, he had posted on his Instagram, hey, any aspiring wrestlers that are looking to get into the business, any current wrestlers that are training and want to hone your craft, hit me up. I'm thinking about starting a school. And then, man, COVID hit like right after that. And my daughter and I were at StarCast 2 in Las Vegas for the launch of AEW. And we were kind of making the rounds, talking to a bunch of different wrestlers. And, I was able to talk to Ron Simmons, one of my favorites, talk to Mark Henry several times. And I talked to Booker T. And one thing Booker asked me, he says, hey, man, you got a good build. Have you ever thought about training? And I was like, well, there's no schools close by. Nothing is open in my general area. And he said, If you want it bad enough, you'll find a school. So don't waste time. And I, talk to him about my age and my concerns about that. And he says, well, let me put it to you like this. If you start training tomorrow, then you got to start. If you wait another year, then you're a year older. So there's no point in waiting. And I always remembered that. And it was shortly thereafter that COVID hit and Ricky Gibson hit me up. We started talking, and he became my coach by proxy online, giving me a few different tasks to do. One specifically, something very simple: wake up in the morning, drink 8 ounces of water, and do 10 push-ups every day. And I was like, just 10? He was like, just start there, building consistency, right? So that was the goal, building consistency. And then we would correspond back and forth. And then when the broader email went out, or broader messaging went out, rather, Cody, that the school was going to be opening, I signed up because I figured, what the hell, right? There's no point in waiting any longer. Like I said, Booker made it very clear that, if you want it bad enough, you'll find a school, and a school found me.
Yeah, that is so interesting. Yeah, because I feel like there are probably like a lot of people out there that want to do professional wrestling, but they don't really know how to actually get into the
Sure.
business.
Sure.
And so like that is like very interesting to like hear how you've kind of been pushed in that sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And to any aspiring wrestlers out there, listen, Oregon Pro Wrestling is accepting new students. We have beginners training on Mondays and Wednesdays from 7 to 10. You could hit me up. You could hit up Amira. You could hit up Ricky Gibson. You could hit up Malcolm Flex. You could try to hit up Eddie Pearl, but he won't respond to you because that's just Eddie Pearl. Any of our current students, please, Brad Lee, Fidel Martinez. You could hit up the Flamin' Aces. Any of the wrestlers that you see, come and talk to us directly, and we will talk to you about how to get into the school. And you won't regret it. You're going to work. You're going to sweat. You're going to hurt. You're going to want to quit, but we won't let you, because Oregon Pro churns out champions. The Hammer Brothers, regardless of if you have titles or not, it's all about the training and the surroundings. Do we always get along? No, but we're brothers and sisters, and we go to war together, against each other and for each other.
Yeah. So like, what would you say are like the requisites in which somebody has to have in order to be able to join Oregon Pro Wrestling School?
You have to be of age, and you have to be ready to put in work. Show up early and leave late. It's that simple. Just don't quit. Don't give up. Any body type. I mean, you seen Sledgehammer. He's a little slender fella, but he somehow figured out a way to make it into pro wrestling. You've seen cats like Zay Perez, big old stocky muscle head dude, right? Finds a way to make it into pro wrestling. Amira, little itty bitty muscle mommy, she made it. Me, probably one of the oldest cats in the circuit, still found a way to make it in. And it's not about, man, seriously, Cody, man, it's not about what you look like, your athletic background. If you have acting background or theater background, it's about if you got the heart and the desire. And again, I give a shout out to Amira, as much as she's on my list right now for my separated shoulder from last week's show. Heart and desire will trump everything, right? And that's what that sister has, and that's what she brings out, and that's what we bring out in our students at Oregon Pro Wrestling School.
Yeah. So like, here's a question. So like, do you have to have like a GED or something in order to be able to actually sign up for Oregon Pro Wrestling School, or is it just strictly based off of your desire to do it?
It's based off desire. In all honesty, having a GED, having an education, the more educated you are, the probably you'll end up talking yourself out of doing it, right? You don't have to be a brain. You just got to know how to show up and put in work. It's that simple. I mean, I should have double checked with Coach again, and forgive me the way, my partially empty cellar is set up and the concussions. I forget things a lot. I want to say 16, 18 is the age minimum. I'm thinking 16, but I could be wrong on that. Double check with Coach Ricky Gibson on that. But at the minimum, have your parents come in, sign you up. If you're older, drive your ass on down there. Let's get to wrestling.
That is so awesome. Yeah, because like I've been like wanting to like ask somebody that based off of like, because I don't think that like a lot of people understand that there's this like you don't have to worry about if you have these certain things. It's all about your desire. So it is really, really, really cool to actually hear that where it's like it doesn't matter about any of that. As long as you're willing to pay and actually show up to all of the classes, then you can do what you want to do.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you, and I'll just text Coach just to double check, so I don't want to give false information to the fans out there
No.
that are listening, that are considering. So I'll have an answer back for you shortly. We have a crop of up and coming talent that is going to blow your mind. If you have been impressed with Amira, the Aces, the Hammer Brothers, myself, good grief, man, anybody that we have pumping out of the system, and some of the vets that we have working with us, Derek Shaw, of course, like I said, Coach Flex, and the Midnight Heat. If you've been impressed with anything coming out of Oregon Pro Wrestling, keep your eyes open. Joey Thornton, Cole Rivera. We got guys, oh my gosh, Eliza True. We have guys and gals that are coming ready to kick doors in. Follow us on Pow Pro Wrestling. Come to a DOA show if you're local in Portland. You'll see. And that's just the tip of the iceberg, Cody. That's just the tip of the iceberg. We have so many awesome athletes coming down the pipe. I can't wait. I can't wait for the world to witness what Oregon Pro Wrestling is putting out in the Pacific Northwest.
That is so awesome. So it's like, how is it for you to kind of have like that lineage with Oregon Pro Wrestling School, but also working with the new up and coming talent? Like, is there like that aspect where it's like you really enjoy like kind of molding them to that, like what you kind of learned from pro wrestling?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll be honest with you, it's I have a coach's background. So I'm very mindful of contributing when asked to do so, but not overstepping my bounds. I'm still training, I'm still learning myself. And if there's some knowledge that can be transferred, ideally that's up to our head coaches. But if given the opportunity to impart any wisdom that I may have or any of the experiences that I've gone through with the students, coach allows us to do that, of course, because we bring each other up, right? We all rise together. And I revel that opportunity. I learned very early on. Coach Flex told me very, very early on, you train, let me coach, right? And that's because I got a little bit out of pocket. And I had to say the same thing to my Krav Maga students when I first started. And my Krav trainer 11 plus years ago told me the same thing. Because you're so passionate about what we do, and you see somebody that shares that passion, and you want to help impart that stuff to them, but we let the coaches coach, and us as peers, we encourage.
Yeah.
And excuse me for holding my shoulder. It hurts like hell. I've been having laser treatment. So yeah, I'm trying to stay professional, but Amira worked me over pretty good, but that's all right.
No, you're all good. So no, like you had like just brought up about like how the trainers would be the one that kind of really implemented things. And
Absolutely.
so it's like do you have like a really good relationship with your trainers as far as like what you want to bring?
Oh, absolutely. Specifically, Ricky Gibson just texted me back. 18 years old is the minimum age to sign up at Oregon Pro. So forgive me if any 16-year-olders got your hair all ready to rock and roll. Keep lifting weights, keep drinking water, keep training, keep watching wrestling, and come when you're 18 and sign up. So my relationship with my coaches is one built on mutual respect. I know and understand what we're trying to build at Oregon Pro Wrestling. I've bought in, and I'm completely sold out for Oregon Pro Wrestling. Nothing against any of the other great schools in the area. But Dragonplex, Buddy Wayne, and even Lionsgate up north in Canada, all putting out amazing talent. But I would hold their talent up against my brothers and sisters at Oregon Pro Wrestling any day, right? I know those coaches, I know those athletes, I love and respect all of them, and would gladly slap the head off of each and every one of their students given the opportunity. I've done it a couple times, and we'll be happy to do it again. But the point is, I love and respect our coaches. I love and respect the vision that they have for us as athletes, and the idea that we're not going to just roll students out for the point of rolling students out. Because every time I step into a ring, either with a mic or ready to bust somebody's head wide open, I represent Oregon Pro. I represent Ricky Gibson, Malcolm Flex, Eddie Pearl, and all of our legacy coaches. And so does each and every one of our students that train at Oregon Pro. And we take it dead serious.
Yeah, Yeah, so it's like, how does it feel for you to like be a graduate of Oregon Pro Wrestling School, and then every time that you go into like, let's say, a promo or a show that you're actually performing at, that you are actually a representative and being like you can do this based off of going to Oregon Pro Wrestling School?
Man, there's an immense amount of pride, Cody, that fills up in me anytime before Izzy and the video team say action on a promo, or anytime I hear my music hit at DOA or at PAL. Just the fact that I know that I've been prepared. I've been very well prepared for this moment. Whether or not there's butterflies or not, depending on what the situation is, I know that our coaches have me prepared and ready to go. And I know the same about my brothers and sisters. As soon as they hit that curtain, as soon as that red light goes on, it's showtime.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so like you had like just kind of brought up about like having butterflies. And so it's like, how do you, I guess, calm that nervousness? Because one thing maybe you can kind of understand is that like so every single time that I kind of have like these interviews, like when I wake up in the morning, it's almost like an event that I'm looking forward to. You know what I mean? And so it's like, do you kind of feel like that same way, like whenever you have an event during that day and you're like, okay, so now I'm counting down the hours. So how can I get myself prepared? So it's like, how do you go through that whole process?
Yeah. I mean, in all honesty, butterflies, I think, are probably the best gauge as to how much you care about what you're doing and what your passion level is. I've been I've been blessed to be working working with the local with Defy, with PAL, with WAC at the time, Timber Pro at the time, and SOS and all the local promotions and or even Wrestle Corp in Canada. And right before it's time for showtime, I feel a little anxious, but it's not concern. It's excitement, right? It's excitement that I know that I'm able to, within the next minute or two, live out my dream, something that I thought about doing as a little kid many, many moons ago. I listen to music sometimes to get ready. I'll go over what my thought process is and the amount of violence that I'm about to disperse onto somebody. And depending on what the reaction of the crowd is, if I'm going to have to get into an arguing match with a couple unruly kids, which happens, hell, it happened at the last show. It's just part of engagement, right? That performance piece, that part of knowing that I'm very well prepared. The butterflies settle as soon as the curtain opens. And it's only because I care. I had a conversation with Jacob Fatu, and I asked him this exact same question. And he says, today, even with the lineage of his legitimate bloodline, with all the shows he's done, he still gets nervous before he hits the curtain. And it's because he cares. And he said that the moment that he doesn't get butterflies is when he's going to get worried.
Yeah. Yeah. That's insane for you to actually be able to sit there and talk to Jacob Fatu, because I think like he is like one of the only people that I can think of that should be signed to like a extreme major contract that isn't even given his lineage. You know what I mean? Like that is insane.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much talent out there that deserves to be able to perform on the big stage. Again, my coaches, the Midnight Heat, Malcolm Flex, the cats that I work and wrestle with right now. I mean, we saw Swerve do it from Defy, right? We've seen a myriad of talent come through. It's just a matter of time. I tell a lot of the students, and you kind of harken back to a question that you asked me earlier about coaching up and working with the up and coming students. My advice to them is always understand that pro wrestling, and it was explained to me, pro wrestling is like what's the word I'm looking for? It's like a potluck, right? There's so many different items. Everybody picks and chooses what they want. Everybody's not going to get what they want all the time. And like the promoter is a chef, or like a buffet rather, right? The promoter is the chef, and they know what items they want. And sometimes you're going to fit in and sometimes you won't. but just keep working and holding your craft. So when the opportunity comes, you're ready to go. Because, you know, every promoter, they're storytellers, right? They're looking for different things. Like I said, they're a chef. They're looking for certain ingredients to craft the perfect meal, right? So I think that being able to stay ready for when the call comes is paramount, right? Our coaches are ready. So if New Japan, AEW, the Fed, if any of them call, they're ready to go. And they prep us up for the same way. I mean, and a lot of the students you see on our shows, God willing, with the right opportunities, they're going to be blasting out of this place, which is great. And then we can hang our hat on the fact that, you know, my coach wrestles for New Japan, or my coach wrestles. I mean, hell, Ricky and Eddie just wrestled on Ring of Honor, right? That's a huge amount of pride to me, right? To flip on network TV and to see my boys going at it, doing their thing, which is a blessing. Huge blessing.
Yeah, that is so awesome. Well, one thing I wanted to bring up with you, just because like there has to be some points in which you actually have to think about the match in which you're going into. And so it's like, how do you kind of gauge yourself so that you're not overthinking something, but then again, you're not underthinking something? Like, you actually understand exactly what you want to do, but you're not like totally like critiquing yourself before you actually go into it.
Well, you know, like I said, preparation is the key. Reps are the key. In my mind, I know, again, in all honesty, how much violence I want to disperse on whomever it is that I'm wrestling. One of my favorite foes is Charlie Avell. Charlie and I go to war. Charlie hits hard. I hit hard. So I know whenever Charlie's in the ring, he's going to bring it. So I have to bring it as well. And I have a toolbox of tools that I use based on the situation. I'm going to have to get creative this coming week, tomorrow, in our match at POW against Marcus Erickson Drexel, my tag team partner, Dr. Cleaver, and I. I'm going to have to get creative because I'm a little bit limited in what I could do with my left. I'm a lefty, so I'm going to have to get creative and punch him in the mouth with my right hand, right? My strikes are my focus, and figuring out ways to make them tap out or go to sleep is the goal. And if it can be done in a split second, we don't get paid by the minute. We get paid by the job. And if the job is done, we get the check out of there back to the merch table. That's the goal.
That's awesome. So we will definitely have to dive into that here in a little bit. And one more question that I wanted to ask you about Oregon Pro Wrestling School and kind of like your experience is like, what would you say, in your own words, would be the hardest thing that they kind of really pushed you to do as you're trying to sit there and train and, you know, get acclimated with pro wrestling in general? Like, what was the hardest thing for you to kind of get used to?
Getting out of my head. That's it. That's the simple thing. The physicality is what it is. Like I said a little bit ago, I've been training and instructing in Krav Maga self-defense, which is about as violent of a contact sport. Well, not even sport. It's real life situations, and it's taken nothing away from MMA, Muay Thai, or anything that those cats do in the cage. But Krav Maga for me has helped me develop a pain tolerance that I've always had. I mean, busted up knuckles. You see the scar here, and you know, Lord knows what's up with the shoulder and the knee. But the thing is, you know, your body's going to react to what your brain puts out, right? Burpees are going to be burpees regardless of if you like them or not. 1,000 squats are going to be 1,000 squats. It'll be worse if you hate them versus just doing them. Taking bumps, they suck. Bills, everything that we do in training to implement in the ring sucks. It hurts. You're throwing your body into harm's way with every move, but you get to learn to love it. At least the ones that are off and touched in the head a little bit, like me, learn to love it. So that's not the hard part. The hard part is getting out of my head and making sure that the work that I know I'm putting in, that I put in already, is going to get me to where it's got me to where I am. And the work I put in today is going to get me to where I want to go. Right. And that's one of the things that we are trained up. You know, imposter syndrome is real. Just like you said, this morning when you woke up, you knew you had this podcast. You and I were texting last night, DMing last night about promoting it, right?
Mhm.
Overthinking it isn't going to make it any better or worse. It's just going to make us stress about it, right? So rest in the fact that you're a professional. I'm a professional. We're trained. We know what we're going to do. Sometimes sound doesn't work right. Sometimes, like Jack Hammer did to Spencer Scott, you go to punch him in the head and you break a light. Things happen. You still got to punch him. Now, more blood to mix in that you were already going to pull out of him in the first place, right? You do what you do. Spencer and I, we were in a street fight, the Super Aces versus the Empire and Jonas Albert Robinson, and I got split wide open. What do? Rub the blood out of your eyes and keep on pushing, right? You can't let what's in here overtake what's in your heart, right? And it's a struggle. I'm not even going to lie. It's a struggle. So if anybody asks me what's the hardest thing about pro wrestling, is staying out of my head. But then, oh, my brother, once that switch is clicked and we go from concerned and worried to, I get to punch somebody in the face, a whole different level of action. So.
Oh, that is so awesome. So like you kind of like just brought about like actually being able to like, punch somebody in the face. Like have you ever actually had to like deliver a receipt since you've been a pro wrestler?
No, just because I understand the level of respect that I have for my counterparts, regardless of if we're on the same page or not, regardless of if they're friend or foe or rival or teammate. It's pro wrestling. I don't mind getting hit. Who has quickly become a good friend of mine, Stephen Bradley, professional wrestler, popped me in the mouth during training. I got a nice picture, bleeding all over the place. I dig it. No need for a receipt. It's all part of the game. Now, whether or not if someone is seeking to give me a receipt, I welcome that. I don't mind it. I mean, do I owe a few receipts? Yeah, but I played a long game. Certain individuals stay on my list, but I just wait.
Yeah. That is so cool.
Strike.
Oh man. So like what would you kind of say to somebody who maybe doesn't understand the risks in which pro wrestlers actually put themselves through? Just kind of like you had just brought up about the severity in which like you have to actually go through to be a pro wrestler. How would you actually explain that to somebody who maybe doesn't understand pro wrestling?
Yeah. We are trained athletes, and the best way to put it is the old disclaimer that the Fed used to use, right? Don't try this at home. It's not for the weak of heart. It's not. And you could try, and it's not for everybody, and that's okay. A friend of mine, one of her shirts and merch she was selling said over sexualized violence. The violence part is what we kind of fall into, right? So you can entertain in a lot of ways, but we entertain through violence, through car crashes, through broken glass, through staples, through split foreheads, through legit punches and knees to the gut where you kick somebody hard enough that you hear that little of fear leaving their body. That's the thing that kind of gets my juices flowing. But to the uneducated, this is real. It doesn't get any realer. And if you think that it's not, come and try. We welcome you to. We will welcome you with open arms to come and experience what it is that we do as professional athletes. And then judge for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. So like what was like one move that you actually went through when you were in pro wrestling training where it's like it really like made you understand like, oh shit, like this is something that is not the like not fake. Like this can really, really hurt you. Like was there one move that you actually went through where it's like it just shocked you a little bit?
Not necessarily. I think if you rephrase the question to, is there a maneuver that I struggle with that's a little bit more difficult to master than others, it would be the back body drop. And that's just because the first time I did it, I thought I knew what it was and didn't, and bit my lip, bit my tongue, gave myself whiplash and heel spurs all in one move. And that, again, is just a reminder that what we do is real. It doesn't get any realer than biting blood in your own mouth and having to put an ice pack on the back of your neck because of the fact that it's real impact. It's real impact. We train in reps and anything else, just like basketball, right? Kobe was the first one in the gym and the last one to leave, and would continue to work on his shot at obnoxious amounts. That's what we do. We train and hone our bodies to be weapons of mass destruction when it comes to our wrestling matches. So yeah, everything we do is real. Nothing that we do would be considered fake. Period.
Yeah. I think that like a lot of people like have that like misunderstanding about pro wrestling just because of like what they've heard, like let's say in like the 80s and 90s, and then their parents kind of tell them, about pro wrestling, and then that's just like it continues in like this like sense of like, oh no, don't go and watch it because this is what I heard in the 80s, instead of seeing that there's an actual like evolution in pro wrestling. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I would say so. I would agree with that. One of the monikers that has been bantered around at our school at Oregon Pro has been, old school tools, right, to fit the new school rules. We are an old school. We wrestle.
Yeah.
We beat each other up and we wrestle and we make each other better. People are going to have their judgment. I mean, my family, my wife, I've been married for quite some time now, and my family supports me, but just like anything else, right? They are concerned about realistic injuries because, for some of us, this might be a passion project. For some of us, it might be a way out of whatever our current situation is. For some of us, it's chasing a lifelong dream. And for some of us, it's a fast track, right? To where we're trying to get to. And with all of that comes the potential for serious injury. I always talk to students or anybody about what happened with Rey Mysterio and Pero Aguayo, right? A very simple move that has been performed by Rey Mysterio for years upon years that he is an absolute master of. The stars and the moons lined up and it didn't turn out great. And things like that do happen, My first injury in wrestling was a concussion, and that was because I hit the mat differently than I had before, right? Funny, first concussion in wrestling was my first match in wrestling, and have had subsequent ones since then. But by God's grace and by good training and awesome doctors and awesome trainers, I'm able to keep this old body moving as long as I can. But ideally, anybody who doesn't think or doesn't have the level of respect that we have, we just invite them to come and check it out. Come and try for yourself. We do open tryouts, and we've gained a lot of students through our open tryouts, our invitation tryouts at Oregon Pro Wrestling, and one might be coming down the pipe for the summer. I'm not sure. That's really up to Coach Ricky. But yeah, we invite people, come out and try. Don't pass judgment on something you're not completely aware of. And if you think you can't do it, you can. At least try. Give it a shot. I did, and it worked out.
Yeah, that is so awesome. So, like, how long was it after you had actually gotten into professional wrestling and you were kind of training by yourself that, like, you actually started to form these factions or tag teams? Like, how long was it into your career before that really came to fruition?
Oh goodness, that's a great question. I was running sound at Pow Pro Wrestling at a show that we were doing at Blair Alley down in Eugene, an old venue that we used to run, and an opportunity came my way through some individual conversations as to an opportunity to step in and assist my now tag team partner, Dr. Cleaver, in removing a barrier of a less than effective tag team partner that he selected. Cleaver was in the need of a new tag team partner since he and Drexel split and went their separate ways, and he had a Dr. Cleaver's tag team partner invitational at a PAL show down at U of O. It was a battle royal, right? And survival of the fittest. And at that time, Derek Shaw came out on top, and he was Doc's tag team partner for quite some time. And I kind of kept my eye on what was going on there from the shadows, as true snakes do, and look for an opportunity. Like I said, a few sidebar conversations, and the time was there to strike, and I struck. And from that point, it's been Dr. Cleaver and I running roughshod over the tag team division, and damn near anybody we can get our hands on in PAL. So how long time-wise? Oh, it was within the first year, I would say. Don't quote me on it, but I'm sure that that the true fans can kind of go and research a little bit. But like I said, the level of concussions I had, it's all just like a beautiful dream that kind of melts together, Cody.
Yeah, I know when I was actually like looking kind of back on like your history, you had Eric Wright, Drake Quan, and Caden Cassidy kind of all in like a group together. So it's when did that whole faction kind of come to be where all of you guys coordinated?
Yeah, so the Heels for Hire at DOA is a legacy stable that I believe was started by Eric Wright when I was going to DOA shows as a fan, and when I was going to PAL shows as a fan when they first started running. Heels for Hire was Eric Wright, Richard Sincere, Malcolm Flex. There may have been one or two others back then. And it subsequently over the years evolved. Certain individuals filtering in and filtering out. It's kind of like the nature of the biz. And Caden Cassidy was then the DOA Grand Champion, and he brought in myself. He brought in Drake Quan. And Eric Wright was, of course, the stalwart there until we decided that he no longer had any use, and he disappeared off into the night one evening after a show. Nobody really knows exactly what happened. But Caden Cassidy actually reached out to me directly and brought me in because, again, throughout the years, we developed a little bit of a mutual respect for one another, and he brought me in to be his right hand. To help execute business and add a little bit of muscle, if you could kind of imagine, 6'2", 300+ pounds needing muscle. But Caden Cassidy, I think, realized what the rest of the pro wrestling world would soon is that can we curse on this podcast?
Of course, go ahead.
Okay. That my name is King NAJA, but my pronouns are fuck around and find out. And needed somebody to ensure that that the empire that he was building had a stable foundation. And we took care of business at Timber Pro Wrestling. We took care of business down at DOA, and we take care of business currently down at PAL.
Yeah. So like, before I actually ask you about everybody who was part of the empire, I want to ask you, like, what was your first interaction with Caden Cassidy?
Originally, way back, again, like I stated, like everybody else, it was as a fan at a DOA show at Harvey's Comedy Club. And went up, introduced myself. He hadn't asked me about training, but then when I did decide to start training, he did provide me with some very sound advice, and a level of respect grew from that point. And he would pop into the school as much of the vets would do, and kind of look at the young crop of kids coming up. And he would pull me to the side and drop little jewels in my ear. And one day he reached out to me and said, I'm in need of someone to ensure, basically as an insurance policy, I'm in need of someone to ensure that I can continue to be the belt collector in the Pacific Northwest, as he was. at one point in time, I believe holding 4 titles. Um, and I jumped on the opportunity. The door was open, and that's all I needed was an opportunity. I got suited and booted. I put on my gloves. I tightened up my tie, and I went to work. And we went to work together, very successfully, I might add.
That is awesome. So one thing I wanted to bring up to you, just because like majority of the time that I've seen you, you're almost playing this like manager to the pro wrestlers. So it's like, how was it like standing outside of the ring and kind of building that story as a manager to almost represent these pro wrestlers? Like, how was that as a performer?
Sure. It's kind of multifaceted, right? Whatever the situation calls for, I fill that role. If it's as support in a managerial capacity, I would fill that role. There were times where, due to injury, I wasn't able to compete, so I was able still to contribute and fill that role of whatever was needed. There were times, I mean, I back in, let's see, we're in February now, so March 7th of 2024 will be the 1-year anniversary of my knee surgery. There was a battle royal to see who would be the number 1 competitor for Caden Cassidy's Pure Championship. And I blew my knee out during that match. Charlie Avell gave me a chop block. You talk about receipts. Yeah, Charlie Avell and Jacob Oso, they maintain on my list, even though there's a level of respect there, but I blew my knee out. And because of that, Caden Cassidy ended up having to, I wasn't able to do my job per se. And during that time of recovery and rehab, I kind of slid into a managerial role there as well as at POW. Sadly, not able to compete and beat the heads off dopes with Dr. Cleaver as much as I love to do so down at POW. I had to just come in and ensure that his back was watched, as I did for Caden Cassidy time and time again. And now that I'm fully healthy, depending on the situation, we're not going to send anybody from the Empire out without their back being watched. Because the problem with being part of an empire is there's always people looking to take over, right? So we ensure our status, we ensure our position by maintaining and making sure that we're watching each other's back. So the managerial position, it's more along the lines of, playing a position further down on the bench versus within the starting 2, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So here's a question. So whenever you look at the seriousness in which you actually want to carry yourself with a character, how does it feel to now know that fans actually take you as serious as you actually want them to? Where it's you can actually transpire and be no, this is how serious we are, so get used to it.
It might sound cliche, but there's no character.
Mm-hmm.
The way I am when I'm walking through the curtain is the way I am every other day. Just the situation dictates how intense, how much fun, right? Because there's fun to be had in life. But I still approach every day, every situation, regardless of what it is, with a level of intensity that only I can bring, and only Caden can bring, and only Doc can bring. Dr. Cleaver is as advertised. Caden Cassidy is as advertised, and King NAJA is as advertised. Do I alter my level of intensity depending on the situation? Absolutely. Depending on if levity is needed to get the job done, then levity is needed. If a monster level of intensity and brutality is what's required, ask Spencer Scott. He'll tell you there's levels to it. It just depends on what's required to get the job done. Spine busting Spencer Scott and Zay Perez is probably one of my most favorite pastimes.
Oh, that is awesome. Well, one thing I wanted to bring up with you was you had posted the other day about you and Marka Miyota's promo where
Yeah,
you guys were like sitting in the car.
yeah, yeah.
And yeah, I just thought that like it was really really funny, and so it's like how do you like before we actually get into it, how do you actually come up with all of those outfits that you actually wear? Because
Yeah.
like you looked like a total G every time.
Well, I appreciate that. You know, creativity is a huge part of what we do. Um, and I like to keep people guessing, right? Um, if you come and you present a certain persona or a certain attitude for every situation, it's almost like people get scouting tape on you, right? Um, we just had the Super Bowl, right? If Kansas City ran exactly the same plays in exact same scenarios, somebody's going to figure it out and they're going to maximize a way to defeat that, right? So my goal
Yeah.
is to always keep people guessing. Depending on the situation, you might get the man in black, you might get the man in all snow white. Either way, you're still going to get the same man. It just depends on the situation. Some situations call for fun loving, some situations call for malicious intent. It just really depends on what's being called for. Um, the promo that I did with Marcus. Marcus is like a little brother to me by proxy because his fiance is like a little sister to me. And we were out at dinner one night, and I was talking about an evolution, if you want to call it that, of my thought process. And ideally, kind of hearkening back to what led to it, that $10,000 street fight that we had with the Flaming Aces when Spencer Scott cracked my head open, changed me a little bit. It changed me a little bit. So in that change, I thought, in business, Cody, in business, there's several ways to make money and there's several ways to make impact. In the business that we do as the Empire, everybody has their lane. And I just decided to expand my lane a little bit wider into something that's a little bit more relaxed and not as intense, because not every situation calls, like I said, for malicious intent. So I dusted off, some of the clothes that I keep around for different scenarios. And I figured, going all white with it wouldn't be a bad idea. Again, keep them guessing, you know, um, understanding that there's value in being multifaceted like a diamond. I decided to introduce a different angle of my in-depth persona. We're all multifaceted, right? The best way I could describe it is some days you're going to get Boba Fett, some days you're going to get Lando, some days you're going to get a bounty hunter, some days you're going to get a ladies man. It just depends on what's called for. And the promo that I did with Marcus was a little bit of fun with the ladies man persona, the King NAJA, the Super Mac persona, as I was dubbed by my dear friend Izzy Bonnie, our illustrious videographer. So we have a whole promo that's drawn out that surrounds that beautiful Cadillac that Marcus and I were sitting in. And I'll get those out pretty soon. But yeah, that's kind of how that came about. I love the entertainment aspect of what we do because a lot of what we do, the storytelling that we do, isn't just in the ring. It's done with promos, it's done with vignettes. My introduction to the pro wrestling world, as far as the scene that we're in now, was done with the vignette. Kate and Cassie and I met out on the dock and we discussed business, and business continues to grow and business is booming and business is going to continue to boom depending on whether or not you're getting the man in black or the man in snow white. Either way, same result, right? The guys are going to be pissed and the ladies are going to be giggling. That's what it's all about.
Oh man, that is awesome. Well, I know like whenever I've like seen you during your promos, like you can bring this like really amount of seriousness in what you're actually trying to get across. And
Yeah.
so it's like, is that something that also coordinates with your own personality? Is you being able to be so serious and be like, this is what I want, this is what I want to come across whenever I'm communicating?
Sure. I mean, I am by nature a very relaxed and laid back person. I'm
Mhm.
somewhat introverted, contrary to popular belief. And a friend asked me the other day, why snakes? Why snakes? Why are snakes my thing, right? You see the tats, and I was going to pull one of the boys out. I'll try, maybe, depending on, they haven't eaten, so they're a little bit temperamental. But why? And snakes very simply want to be left alone, right? I want to go about doing my thing. I don't want anybody to bother me. But if they do, again, my pronouns are fuck around and find out. And that's where the level of intensity comes, right? If I'm good, I'm good. Everybody's happy. Everybody wins. But when I'm not good, it's a whole nother story. And depending on the nature of what it is we're discussing and the topic of conversation, or whom the topic of conversation is at the moment, maybe a level of intensity is required. And it comes natural to me because, again, like I said, I'm not putting on a character. This is me. I'm the nicest guy you could ask Cody Von Whistler. I'm the nicest guy you want to meet and the worst dude you want to piss off. I mean, I can't any plainer than that for you, brother.
Yeah. I find that like so interesting. Just to kind of just talk about,
sure,
whatever, is kind of like just not knowing exactly where you can actually push somebody, but everybody has that certain dickish side to them. It's just a matter of unlocking it. You know what I mean?
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. And everybody has a lock, and everybody can potentially be a key. And it depends on what key unlocks what emotion, right? Mm-hmm. Amira seems to have the key of my pissed off emotion. She damn sure has the key to my bad shoulder, right? Charlie Avell unlocks the key to hard punches. Spencer Scott, Zay Perez unlocked the key to the most beautiful spine buster you've seen since Ron Simmons. I mean, it's just what it is. It's what it is, bro.
Oh, that is so awesome. So I actually wanted to bring up to you the promo in which Caden Cassidy and Funny Bone were actually confronting referee Bradley inside the parking garage. And you guys had kind of pulled up and whatnot. And one of the first things that I saw about that promo that really drew me attention to it was like when you actually stepped out of the car, you almost like popped your collar a little bit. And like it made you look like so professional before actually going into the promo. So it's like, how was that whole experience actually going through that promo, but also having to be professional in the same sense?
Well, number one, again, like I said, the entertainment aspect, and that's I think a facet of it, right? It's all part of that formula that is good storytelling. I remember that promo like it was yesterday. Funny Bone had challenged Caden Cassidy, the Kingpin, for his Timber Pro Wrestling Timberweight title, and Brad was handing over, as he should, to us the newly designed title. And as we graciously were headed back to continue on with our business, Bradley decided he'd say, "Hey, Funny Bone's coming for that title." And why in God's green earth he decided to poke the bear? He had to stop, readdress, and listen to what he had to say again. I remember my specific direction to him was say that again, word for word. And he proceeded to do so. And then Caden expressed himself as to what he was going to do to Funny Bone. And then I had to calm him down, which is much the case. Again, he understands I understand my role, and he understands what he's getting from me. And we continued on our way. That's just a part of doing business, right? I mean, you're going to have people that are coming. Like I said, when you have an empire that you're building or built, people are going to come and try to threaten it. And we do what we do. We fight them off. Some fights, are one and done. Some are, epic battles like this thing with Funny Bone. We're just going to keep doing what we do. Collect.
That is awesome. So one thing I wanted to bring up to you was DOA Slammed by Me. And I had seen this little bit of footage where you actually like went out into the crowd and you kind of like grabbed a dude. And then you were like blocking him. You were telling him like, no, like come here, as you were like getting him into like the path of the entrance area. And my question is like, so like, how do you exactly know like how to interact with fans, or like what you can actually do to fans as a pro wrestler?
Yeah. You know, it's a situation to where it's a feeling situation, right? Again, like I said, down in Pal, I got in an argument with two little kids this past weekend. These two little girls, they had to be no more than 10. For some reason, their hands were stuck with middle fingers pointing at me. I don't even understand why. I didn't do anything to them. But you know, at the DOA situation, you know, we respect our fans and command that level of respect from our fans. The situation you're speaking of, I believe it was a security. It was a security personnel, and ideally ensuring that security is doing the job that they're paid for is part of it. You know, keeping us wrestlers safe and ensuring that that everyone enjoys the show. Right? Fans sometimes can get a little bit overzealous, and I understand. Generally, my interaction with the fans of the fair sex are a little bit more relaxed than they are with gentlemen. You know, I'm like, I mean, I can't front. It is what it is. Ladies love King NAJA, and that's fine. I love the ladies. And you know, if fans get a little bit overzealous, there's time for that, and we don't want to impede the fans' ability to enjoy the show, and we don't want to impede our wrestlers' ability to entertain the fans. And sometimes things get a little out of control. I'm harking back to my first one-on-one match, which was against Eddie Pearl, my coach. Every year for the second year running, third year coming this August, we put on a show. We host a show with the PDX Hot Sauce Expo, and Oregon Pro Wrestling provides the wrestling entertainment. And I was wrestling in my first match there last year, not this past summer, but the summer prior. And I got into the ring and kind of was stretching out, getting myself ready for action. And I felt somebody smack me in the ass, right? And I turned around to thank the young lady, and it turns out it wasn't a young lady, it was a man. And he was dealt with, thankfully at the time. Malcolm Flex and Chris Brady went and addressed it. But that's what's going to happen, right? When we're that close. That's what the local pro wrestling scene in the Pacific Northwest, as well as other areas, provides, is close access. There's boundaries that have to be maintained. And we talked a little bit about Jacob Fatu. There's famous film of Jacob Fatu at a PCW Ultra show. Somebody went beyond that line. Again, let's say it together. My pronouns are fuck around and find out. And if you decide to go beyond what's comfortable or what's appropriate, then you have to deal with those, with the repercussions, right? That individual that you're speaking about at the slam by me, that was a security. I was encouraging the security to do his job. And then at a certain point, I probably knocked him on his butt just because that's what they get for not doing their job. And that's why I'm going to do it again. Because again, this isn't a game. It's not a persona. This is real.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, one thing I wanted to bring up to you was it was actually last night on Earth. I had taken my sister and her boyfriend, and then my mom and myself. And I was actually sitting there filming a match, and I think you were the manager for it. And then you actually went and like sat on Mitch's lap, like sitting in the crowd. I didn't really get footage of it, but I heard about it, and I was like, so like, how did you actually gauge that was something where it's like, oh, I can go and I can fuck with this dude that way, and it's not really gonna matter.
Sure. So the last night on Earth, I believe that was the Chris Brady versus Zeb St. One street fight. I could be wrong, but again, like I said, too many knocks to the old noggin. Hi, sweetheart. I'm almost done. Okay. My granddaughter. Again,
No.
I'm a nice guy. Unless I have to punch him in the face. My granddaughter, she gets the love. So that was a situation in which, and again, right, we as artists, as performers, as professionals, we want the fans to have a memorable experience, right? Wrestling is all about moments, right? What do you remember about WrestleMania 3?
Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant.
Yeah. right? The slam, right?
Yeah.
You remember the story leading up? Well, when you think back to it, but it was that moment that sticks out to you, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
The first and only WrestleMania I was able to see, which I want to say, and I know Eliza True is going to send me a text and say, no, it was this one because she's like a wrestling nerd database. It was down in San Francisco, 29, 31, who the hell knows, whatever.
31.
Yeah, you remember?
Yeah.
You wrestling nerd database, I appreciate it. You remember the RKO off of the curb stomp from Randy to Seth
with Seth Rollins.
Yep.
Yeah.
Ronda Rousey jumping over the guardrail, right? The whole NWO thing versus WCW, whatever. But Seth Rollins cash in, right? I remember vividly the way he was running down. That's a moment, right? We try to provide our fans with moments, right? And we're careful of doing so. I mean, ideally, when I sat on Mitch, it was probably just, hey, I need a place to sit for a second to get a good view. Knowing me, I was probably risen up whoever the closest young lady was, right? It's all part of the game. But yeah, I think that's probably how that played out.
Oh, that is so awesome.
Yeah, dude.
So I remember when I was actually speaking with Spencer Scott. He had brought up that you two actually had a hot sauce chop off during the Hot Sauce Expo in 2022. So like how did that feel, actually having hot sauce like slapped onto you, and then like the little bits in which you can actually get in your chest? Like that had to suck.
It wasn't the greatest of all things. It wasn't a massage, that's for sure. Spencer Scott can bring the heat. His moniker Hot Shot is not by accident. I mean, my guy can go. He is one of my favorite foes. And one day, I see a future with he and I in some capacity. I don't know exactly what, but I do, because I dig Spencer a lot. I like punching him in the face a lot. I like spine busting him a lot, but he likes flipping over and landing on me. He flipped over and landed on me on a damn table. That sucked. From what I recall, I was knocked out because Jaden, our local superhero, decided to gas me with my own snake venom. But that's another story for another time, Cody. Yeah, I don't know, man. Like we were in a battle royal, and Spencer Scott kept looking at me, and I looked at him and asked him what the hell was he looking at, and he looked at me and said, "What the hell are you looking at?" And we both just rolled out of the ring and commenced to beating the hell out of each other. And we're at the Hot Sauce Expo. We kind of glanced over at the same time at the hot sauce booth. I believe it was Hobbs Sauce, hobbsauce.com. And we went over, and no, it wasn't that. It was Bobby's Boat Sauce. That's what it was. I remember now. It was Bobby's Boat Sauce, because after we beat the stuffing out of each other, we ended up taking a picture with Bobby of Bobby's Boat Sauce. This thing hurts. But yeah, I mean, it was hot outside. There was hot sauce. I like chopping Spencer. Spencer likes chopping me. I think at a certain point we got tired of chopping each other, and we chopped Brad Lee, just because he was in the way. And then we poked each other in the eyes, and that hurt more than just about anything else, because hot sauce in your eyes is a bad idea. And oddly enough, we went with the same move at the same time. So we're on somewhat of the same wavelength. And believe it or not, we did the exact same chop off at the 2023 Hot Sauce Expo. And if he decides to show up at the 2024 Hot Sauce Expo, I'm going to do the same thing. Chopping Spencer Scott in his ginger chest, making it even more ginger, brings me a lot of joy. Cody, I like that a lot. There's a lot of things in this pro wrestling business that I really enjoy.
Oh,
as
man.
Already mentioned, spine busters to Spencer Scott and Zay Perez, and choking out Zay Perez is one of my favorite things to do. Trying to knock Amira's head off is one of my favorite things to do. I haven't been that successful with that one. Chopping Spencer Scott is great. Yeah, there was actually Sledgehammer really overdid it and poured hot sauce in his eyes right before the tag. That was probably a favorite memory of mine from the initial hot sauce outside of getting smacked in the ass by that guy, which was kind of weird to say, but you know.
Oh man, that is so awesome. Well, it's actually been quite a long time that we've actually been sitting here talking, and I just want to ask you.
Sure.
Um, I know I have a plethora of more questions for
I'm
you,
here as long as you
but
want me, brother. As long as the people can hold on, I'm with it. I get a little bit long. Everybody knows that, but you know, it is what it is. They logged on for a reason. They're getting everything they get. They're getting what they
yeah.
came for. They won't leave disappointed. That's but
Yeah,
yeah.
well, I was just gonna ask you one more question before we actually ended up closing everything out. I just wanted to ask you, like, what can we expect from King NAJA in 2024? Like, what exactly do you want to do this year?
You know, God only knows how long I will be able to actively wrestle. Um, my goal ideally is to inflict as much pain as I can. Um, Continue to champion the cause of independent pro wrestling and Oregon Pro Wrestling School. Um, this past weekend and this coming up weekend, hopefully, I'll have the opportunity to do a little bit of ring announcing. Ideally, you know, when it's all said and done, when there's no more unworthy opponents, I want to have an opportunity to maybe get into commentary. Management is always a thing because I always got my eye on new talent. You know, there's a couple awesome athletes that I think with the right amount of malicious tutelage can really step it up and go to another level. So I'm always keeping my eyes open. As I stated when I came back after Spencer Scott cracked my head wide open, you know, my goal is to beat up people as long as I can, as much as I can. And if there's any wrestlers, male or female, that are looking for advocacy, protection, management, then I'll be your huckleberry. And I have no problem getting involved. Again, you know, I don't mind getting hit, and I damn sure love hitting. So, yeah, this year, I mean, I would love an opportunity at the Pow Pro Wrestling Tag Titles with Dr. Cleaver because I think that it's about time. Even though the current tag champions, the Midnight Heat, are very, very, very worthy. The Hammer Brothers, The Flaming Aces, Dove and Dangerous, The Academy, say it with me, You know, Marcus
Oh,
Erickson, Drexel, they'll find out tomorrow. But you know,
yeah.
I think ideally I would love to hold tag gold, but if not, listen, the blood on my hands of my opponents is enough reward for me.
Yeah. Yeah, for some reason when you were just explaining that, I don't know why, but like I just had this like imaginary just I guess like vision of like you kind of being like the Paul Heyman of a manager for Rebel Kell. Like could you imagine that? Like you being like that representative for her and like I think that would be amazing to see.
Yeah. Well, number one, Kel is above and beyond able and capable of taking good care of herself. That opportunity is something that I would revel in. You know, Kel and I are good friends. We've been close for quite some time. I love seeing her success from this side of the fandom after following her for quite some time. Um, you know, if I had my druthers, Kel would continue on the path that she's on, killing it. If I had a you know a genie in a lamp, I would love to have the opportunity to work with Danica De La Rouge if she ever decides to come back. Not that she needs management as well, but I would love to advocate for her. You know, as a manager, I see myself in that capacity more like a combination of Gary Hart and Slick, finding ways to continue to slither into the mix and see what kind of commotion I could stir up.
Yeah. Well, one thing I wanted to ask you before we actually end up closing everything out is so like you were actually advertising about this podcast yesterday, and you had actually posted this photo of like you actually had like a snake like around your neck. So it's like, what is that, like your own like personal pet? And
No,
like what kind of snake was that?
there was three pictures. There was the original post, right? That you sent me. Um, and then there was the second one, which I believe was from the last DOA show. That was myself and a 8-foot red-tailed boa constrictor angel named Ruby. She belongs to a good friend of mine, Jordan Vickers from Oregon Reptile Views. And the third picture, um, when I had just the vest on and my eyes started to morph into the snake eyes, I had a beautiful snow white ball python. I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but she also belongs to my good friend Jordan Vickers of Oregon Reptile Views. He actually came and because of the nature of what was going down at the last DOA show, he blessed me with an opportunity to bring Ruby out to the ring. And it wasn't for any, form of intimidation. It was just because, she was there, and why not give the fans something to clamor about? I do have three snakes myself. I have a albino ball python. His name is Goldie. And I have a vanilla cream ball python. His name is Priest. And both of them named after 1970s blaxploitation pimp movies. Goldie was the Mac, and Priest is the name of Superfly. And my new little baby that I'm kind of looking at, his name is Harley. He's a Western hognose. He's about the size of my pinky, right? Cute as he could be. And his nickname is Cream Corn. His nickname is Cream Corn. Cream Corn, the notorious pimp from Black Dynamite fame. So I do have another snake coming. He is a male juvenile Gaboon Viper, which is, you can kind of see the one I have tattooed on my arm here. Venomous Viper. And I'm waiting for him, and that's what Jordan is working on presently. And his name will be Lando, the ultimate pimp. So, yeah, so I'll have my daughter has two upstairs, two ball pythons, Clarice and Freddy Krueger.
That is so awesome. All right, man. Well, for one last question for you. So, like, what does professional wrestling like mean to you? Like, how does it feel to actually know what you want to bring to professional wrestling and you actually have the opportunity to do so? Like, how much does that mean to you?
It means a lot. In this life, Cody, we're offered a finite amount of time to live it to the most, right? To the utmost, to the most of what we can. And if I learned anything from COVID, life is short and there's no point in delaying. There's no point in waiting. If there's something that you love and you're passionate about, go after it. Because ideally, none of us want to live our life with no regrets, right? Regrets, whatever it was he had on his neck. Look for an opportunity to do something that you love and go after it. And again, like I said, don't let the voices inside your head propel you to think that you're not worthy. Don't let the voices inside your head propel you to think that you don't have what it takes. Because above all else, if we can start to become our biggest cheerleaders instead of our harshest critics, I think we'll get a whole different level of fulfillment out of this journey, right? No matter what your belief is, if this is all that there is, why not give it everything you got? And pro wrestling has offered me the opportunity to do that, to express myself, to legally beat the hell out of people, and to entertain, right? I make a lot of friends, acquaintances, fans, people that I'm relationships that I never would have been able to establish outside of pro wrestling. And it's good. It's really good. It's a great thing. It's a beautiful, beautiful chapter of my life right now. And I'm very happy for every day that I get to do it. One of the things that we do, and hopefully anybody who's watching and listening decides to come try us out at Oregon Pro Wrestling, is we greet each other with good morning, right? Why? Because the day starts when we're able to wrestle. And the fact that I'm able to wrestle and hone my craft and get better, because I'm the drizzling shits right now, just like every wrestler out there. We're getting better and better by the day, right? I'm not as bad as some of the cats that I like to, spine bust, but we'll all get one way or the other. We'll all get there. And I do want to take a moment. I'm looking at the chat popping up on the side, and I want to thank you, Mariah, for chiming in and adding a couple little pieces of commentary. Anybody who's interested, feel free to follow me if you're not doing so on Instagram at Hail_King_NAJA, and come up and introduce yourself to me at a show, and I'll be more than happy to kick you down with some merch, autographs. Especially if you're a young lady, I have some really cool merch for the ladies. Dudes too, I got stuff for you, but even kids. I mean, because I'm such an imposing figure. Where is it? I got one right here. I got these awesome bracelets for kiddos. Well, you want to take a little snake home, get one of your own, right?
Interesting.
So, yeah. So yeah, man, I have everything from 8x10s to posters. I actually got a rubber stamp, so if you want my picture on you, I'm happy to stamp you like a tattoo on your arm or pop one onto your forehead. I'd be looking like a NAJA unicorn. I'm a man of the people. They got to give the people what they want, and we all know the people can't get enough of King NAJA, and I'm here for it.
Oh man, well, I just have to tell you, man, it has been an absolute pleasure to actually sit down with you and just kind of pick apart your mind for a little bit. And I just can't thank you enough, and I cannot wait to actually see you the next time that you're in Independence.
Cool. I appreciate that, man. Again, I appreciate the opportunity, Cody. Thank you for what you're doing, continuing to evangelize all everything and share the word and evangelize and preach independent pro wrestling, interviewing the wrestlers. I saw you interview Draven. For some reason, you interviewed Spencer, and that's okay, I guess. But I giving us as wrestlers the opportunity to to talk about why we love this sport of pro wrestling so much. So thank you for everything that you do, and thank you, Mariah. Again, Hail_King_NAJA, and make sure you hit me up. Feel free to slide right on into those DMs and give me a size. As if I haven't met you before, come and say hi. I'll make sure I'll get you something nice, specific for you.
Oh man, that is so awesome. All right, well, I hope you have a very, very good night, and I just want to thank you again for joining us here.
It's my pleasure indeed, and it's your pleasure as well, and apparently Mariah's pleasure too. So I'm all about giving out pleasure. So thank you, brother. I appreciate it.
All right, man. I'll talk to you later. Have a good night.
Thank you, bro. You too.
Well, all right, you guys. So that was your Interestings podcast with King NAJA. Make sure to go and follow me on social media at CodyT503. That's Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, because I have some more news coming your guys' way for March, heading into this next month, and I cannot wait to break down to you guys exactly who we have coming to the podcast. And we have some more very, very special guests. I'll catch you guys later.